During this presentation, we will discuss the key aspects of communication in Argentina. After giving a brief introduction to the region, we will explain the various channels and methods in which communication travels through the country.
Buenos Aires is the most populated province of the country with 15 million inhabitants, 38% of the national population, of which 10 million live in the greater Buenos Aires area and 5 million in the rest of the province. 90% of the Argentine population resides in cities or towns of more than 2,000 inhabitants, and over one-third lives in the greater Buenos Aires area. The official and most spoken language in Argentina is Spanish, and it is spoken by practically the entire population, about 98.3%. Although Spanish is the language of Argentina, many Argentines speak English well, having been educated internationally. In addition, many speak either Italian or German, as a high proportion of Argentines have either Italian or German ancestry. There were over 27 million internet users in Argentina, representing 66% of the population in June 2011, according to Internet World Stats. Nearly 13 million people ages 15 and older accessed the internet from a home or work location in Argentina in April 2011, spending an average of 26.9 hours online during the month, according to ComScore.
Argentines enjoy comparatively high standards of living compared to other Latin American countries. Most of the population considers itself middle class, and the country has a high Human Development Index score of 0.869. As of 2008, 20.6% of the population is under the official poverty line, and income distribution has become considerably unequal as a result of the 2001 economic crisis. Though the exact reason for Argentina's economic collapse is often contested, some argue that the poor policy advice from the IMF or International Monetary Fund could be to blame. Others, including the IMF, say the irresponsibility and corruption of the Argentine government are to blame. No matter the side you're on, the failure of Argentina's fixed exchange rate policy becomes a center point of most arguments. When I use the term fixed exchange rate policy, I am referring to the advice from the IMF that had the Argentine peso fixed at the same rate as the US dollar. In effect, 1 peso equaled $1. Because of this, the dollar and peso became interchangeable. Both currencies were being circulated through Argentina's economy. The problem with the Argentine fixed exchange rate was it caused the peso to increase in value at the same rate as the US dollar during the economic boom of the 1990s. The rising currency value caused Argentina's exports to become more expensive relative to the country's imports. Since Argentina's largest trading partners are Brazil and the EU, whose currencies were valued much lower than the peso, the Argentine export market was stalled, limiting the growth of their economy.
Social networking is the second most popular online activity in Argentina. An analysis of how internet users in Argentina spend their time online revealed a shift in behavior towards leisure-oriented content categories. Instant Messenger and email both witnessed declines as consumers made use of an increasing array of communication methods, including social networking and mobile devices, to stay connected. Microsoft sites led as the most visited online property, reaching nearly 12.4 million visitors, representing 95.1% of the entire population. Google sites ranked second with nearly 12.3 million visitors, followed by Facebook with 11.5 million visitors. When compared to markets globally, Argentina's users averaged the second highest amount of time on Facebook behind Israel, where visitors averaged 10.6 hours during April. In Argentina, Twitter reached 12.5% of all online users, 1.6 million visitors, ranked 13th globally. Fotolog and Windows Live Profile each ranked among the top 3 social networking sites in both markets, while Sonico and LinkedIn also held solid positions within the top 10. Argentina's mobile market is the third largest in Latin America, after Brazil and Mexico. 3 operators, Movistar, Claro, and Telecom Personal, run a close competition for market share. All 3 companies have launched 3G services over HSDPA networks and have extended 3G coverage to all of Argentina's 23 provinces. Argentina is one of the most important television and cable markets in Latin America. After Brazil and Mexico, it has the largest number of television receivers in the region, over 7 million, according to Britannica Book. Its cable access is the highest in Latin America, at 52%. Domestic programs actively compete with foreign productions and popular genres including variety shows, sitcoms, telenovelas, sports, and children's programs. The history of television in this country is characterized by the cyclical patterns of state and private media ownership, which parallel the changes occurring in the political and economic arena.
Argentine television began its transmission in 1951 during the presidency of Juan Domingo Perón. Jaime Yankovic, a pioneer of the medium in the country, was a local radio entrepreneur who traveled to the United States to buy the equipment needed for television broadcasting. Initially, the transmitters were operated by the Ministry of Public Works, and the legal framework established the state as the owner of the broadcasting service. During this time, the government had absolute control over television, even though advertising spots were sold to commercial advertisers from its inception.
The first pay TV systems were founded in 1962. They used Cat-V technology, coax cables, inexpensive equipment, and bought most of their programming from their broadcast stations in Buenos Aires. The first private channels in the capital city of Buenos Aires started operating in 1960. Though Argentine law prohibited foreign ownership of TV channels, the American networks managed to make backdoor deals with the local stations by creating parallel production companies.
Foreign investments could flow to these companies because they were not limited in terms of ownership. Thus, the American Television Corporation, NBC, invested in Channel 9 through the production company Telecenter. ABC invested in Channel 11 through Telerama, and CBS and Time Life invested in Channel 13 through Puratel. In this way, the American networks became partners of the private Argentine channels. Rating figures show that in general, the Argentine audience preferred domestic productions.